What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 3a2balkon events resources for Arab Christian dating. Yo, my name is Rita, and I am your host. Today, we're talking about empowering yourself through self-awareness. So, welcome to this foundational discussion on self-awareness, where the first and most important step in preparing ourselves for a Christ-like relationship. Many of us approach relationships seeking a partner who will complete us. But let me tell you something. The truth is, we must first find the completion within ourselves. So self-awareness, it allows you to understand your emotions, your emotional responses, your identity areas, or trying to identify areas for growth and live authentically. From Aristotle's wisdom, you guys, there's a quote that says, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So that invites us to see self awareness not as a selfish thing or selfishness, but as a step towards humility and strength needed for healthy love. So, together, let's do this. Let's explore what it really means to truly know ourselves so that we can engage with others with confidence, with compassion, and with faith. Let's start with something like this. What is self awareness? Well, self awareness, my friends, is like turning on a light in a dimly lit room. You begin to see things clearly, which is beautiful. So, it's this ability to recognize your emotions, your thoughts, and your behaviors, and to understand how they are influencing your decision. So, follow me with this one. Imagine preparing for a lifelong partnership, but being unaware of your fears, of your wounds, and or dreams that you're going to bring into it. One of my favorite quotes by St. Paul from the Bible. I'm going to paraphrase this over here. He says, get rid of the old yeast because it taints the entire batch. These fears, these wounds, these things that we bring in that we're unaware of, that is old yeast that we need to get rid of. And so, wouldn't you want to know all these things beforehand, before you walk into that marriage, so that you are aware of that pitfall? For us, for us who are Arab Christians or anyone who's really using this and watching this, listening to this talk, we often carry strong cultural and familiar expectations. And you know this. Our families play a tremendous influence on us, which is incredible and it's beautiful. And it really builds this community that helps us thrive. But within that community, we also need to have self awareness, which helps us discern the difference between who we are and the roles others might expect us to play. And by the way, if you know who you are, you can play that role a lot better. This, my friends, it doesn't mean rejecting those who influence us, but learning to balance things between our personal identity and our faith and our culture. And so we gain clarity on what drives us, things like our habits, our values, and fears, and we lay the foundation for a strong relationship that are rooted in mutual understanding and truth. In any relationship, especially one intended for marriage, self-awareness, it really just acts as this compass. And so why is it important? Well, it really helps you understand your triggers and you can pause and respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. So for example, if let's say your partner delays response makes you anxious, self-awareness can actually help you recognize that this anxiety stems from past experiences rather than actually stemming from current situation. So the problem is not the current situation. You're anxious because of something that happened in the past. And it's so dormant within that it really needs to come to the surface so that you're not dealing with that. And truthfully, the job of our partner is almost like to get us to heaven. So they chisel at our souls. Sometimes you'll have someone who really hits all the triggers and your job through this self-awareness is to kind of stop and think, "Oh, why? But why is this happening?" So the second thing that self-awareness improves is communication. So clear communication is vital in any relationship, and you can't communicate what you don't understand about yourself, and that's really important. So when you know your feelings, you can articulate them honestly, respectfully, and by inviting deeper connections. And so finally, Self-awareness, it fosters this authenticity. So many people enter relationships trying to be what they think their partner wants. But this approach isn't always sustainable. So, what we want to do is you want to be your true self. You want to be grounded in understanding that God created you as who you are, and you attract the kind of relationships that honor both your partner's unique identity and honors you as well. And so now that we kind of know this stuff, we also want to work on identifying our emotional triggers. So these emotional triggers are actually reactions rooted in past experiences. They can feel like Southern Storm, they can feel powerful and overwhelming, but also, my friends, self awareness gives us the tools to navigate them. So, for instance, let's say you're feeling hurt when someone doesn't respond to your text, which we said before, it could stem from a past fear of being ignored and abandoned. And so, by recognizing that this experience triggers it, it doesn't make the feeling disappear, but it gives awareness. It helps you manage your response. So you may still be triggered by this, but what will happen is that you know when this trigger occurs that this is happening because of that. And then you can manage your responses accordingly instead of reacting to it as you would if you weren't aware. And so, as Arab Christians, we often grow up with really strong community ties, and that can sometimes magnify our sensitiveness or sensitivity towards rejection or judgment. And what we want to do is learning to pause when triggered. It really allows us to remind ourselves of the truth. I am loved by God, and this moment does not define my worth. That's really it. I am truly loved by God, and this moment does not define my worth. And this practice, it not only helps us respond with patience, but also creates space for healthier communities with others and healthier, sorry, communication with others. So self-awareness and change is our next step. And so self-awareness, it really just opens the door to change. It's one thing to know you tend to withdraw when you feel hurt. It's another thing to really just decide that I want to work on being more open. So just being aware of something doesn't mean it's going to cause that change. You have to make a conscious decision to cause that change, being presented with what you know now based on your self awareness. And so this willingness to change, it actually reflects spiritual maturity and it reflects this desire to love well. So change begins with small and intentional steps. So for example, if you notice you often avoid conflict, commit to expressing your feelings in a calm and honest way. That way, the next time you have that disagreement or the disagreement arises, you are not reacting with conflict. But if you don't realize that you have that conflict, you can't make that decision to act a little bit better. And it's a journey, so it's a little bit better each day, but or with each argument. But hey, the fact that you're working on it is beautiful. And so it helps you this doing this or going through this process, it helps you not just benefit for your benefit, but really it helps your future partner and it helps your future family. And again, getting rid of that old yeast because it taints the entire batch. And you know that from your personal experience, if your parents say something or do something that provokes some negative emotions, well, you're going to react negatively as well, and it kind of taints your entire day. So we want you, or we want to be able to control our reactions, figure out our triggers, and heal from those by presenting them to God and asking God to help us work through it little by little. So the more you heal and grow, the more fully you can love and be loved. So you want to trust that God's grace accompanies you in this journey. You want to trust that it's transforming your weaknesses into opportunities, and you want to trust that it creates connections and it creates growth as well. So that next thing we have is this developing emotional regulation. And guys, this is really important. So what you want to do is Essentially, to define it, emotional regulation is the ability to manage your feeling instead of letting them control you. So it's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about choosing how you want to respond to them. Again, I'm going to say that one again. It's not suppressing your emotions, because if you suppress your emotions, they're going to fester up somewhere else and you're going to explode at one point or another, and that would be more detrimental than anything else. So it's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about choosing how to respond to them. For example, if you feel angry or this anger rising during an argument, it's easier said than done, but I'm going to say this. Take a moment to pause, to breathe, and to ask yourself internally, what is really going on? And you will realize that often, or more often than not, the emotion is not tied to the situation. It's actually tied to something deeper. So, like a fear or an insecurity that you have. So, before responding, pause, reflect, ask yourself, and then choose a thoughtful response. And in relationships, these emotional regulations, they create a sense of safety. Your partner will feel more comfortable opening up if they know you'll respond with thoughtfulness rather than being impulsive. So for us, for our community, it aligns beautifully with the virtue of temperance. We talk about the virtues and the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Temperance is a beautiful one. When we do this, it brings balance and calmness into our emotional lives so that we can live more fully and love more fully. Another thing about self awareness is that it builds confidence. So, confidence is really rooted in self awareness, not arrogance. So, there's two very different things. It's about knowing your worth in God's eyes. So, when you understand your strength and you embrace your imperfections, you can approach relationships with peace instead of insecurities. You're not just seeking someone to validate your worth, you already know your worth. You already know it. That's the beautiful thing about self-awareness, is that you already know your worth. You already know that despite your failures and my failures, and despite the fact that I failed God on so many different ways in so many different times, I'm still loved and my value comes from that. And so you're not seeking someone to validate your worth, but you're sharing your life with someone who is as an equal. And that's the difference. This confidence is especially important in cultures where this external opinion can weigh heavy on you. And a lot of people say a lot of things that they're not aware of, but we're not accountable for what people are saying. We're accountable for us. I can't change them, but I can change me and I can change my reaction to that to be a more loving reaction, to be a more Christ like reaction, and to be a more um, sober minded reaction that's rooted in self awareness and that confidence. And so when you're grounded in your identity and your values, you can respectfully navigate families and societal expectations without losing yourself and also without acting out of pain. Because when you are self aware, when you go through self awareness journey, because I don't think there's ever a time where we're fully self aware, but when we are practicing self awareness, it's easier to turn to God and say, God, heal me from this. You've made me aware of the mistakes that I'm doing. You've made me aware, more self-aware of the things that are hindering me. And so heal me. I present that before you. Heal me with all the humility that I come to you because you are the one that can do this. So continuing on, this strength makes you a better partner. So when someone who loves from a place of wholeness rather than a place of need. You're looking for a relationship, you're entering into these relationships. I do not want you to enter them from a place of need. I want you to enter them from a place of wholesomeness and wholeness, because there's a tremendous difference. If you enter from a place of need, you enter as someone who is dependent on someone else for their validation, and that should not be you. And so what are the key takeaways from our discussion today? Three things. One, reflect on your triggers. Spend time identifying the situations or interactions that provoke strong emotional reactions in you. What might that reveal about your past wounds or your fears, sorry. The second thing, pause and pray. I cannot say that again. Pause, sit in silence. The early church fathers and the early church, even the church mothers, right? The early saints, there was such a tremendous um, emphasis on silence. So pause, take a moment, breathe, be silent, pray for clarity, pray for guidance, and God will reveal that to you. The Holy Spirit will reveal that to you, and you'll be able to see what's going on. And when you see it, you can then present it to God. And the third thing that I want you to take away from this is write down 3 qualities that make you unique. Reflect on these gifts and how they can enrich your future relationships. In essence, what I want you to do is I want you to think of what you bring to the table. What are 3 things that make you who you are? And another thing so we have some reflective questions that we should take a look at as well. What are some of your emotional triggers? How do you typically respond to conflict? And what are 3 qualities that make you unique? And what I want you to do, your action step, is spend 10 minutes daily reflecting on your emotional reactions. And don't reflect on it by yourself. Bring God into the equation. Ask the Holy Spirit, who is with you always, to be with you in that as well. And so, my friends, self awareness is your first step towards interior freedom, the kind of freedom that allows you to love deeply and without fear. And so, as you grow in understanding yourself, remember that this journey is not just about preparing for a partner, it's about aligning yourself with God's design for your life. So, through this process, you become more open to His will and more capable of building a relationship that reflects His love. And as Romans 12:2 says to us, be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Take that journey, be transformed, and trust that this renewal will actually prepare you for your partner and the future that God has in store for you. My prayer is, God, chisel me into the person you want me to be for the sake of my family and for the sake of the person that you have for me. And with that, I bid you a farewell. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks, guys, for listening. If you have any questions, reach out to me. You can find me at the word with Rita on all social media platforms. I'll see you then. Bye for now.